all of history is a lie. You just have to kind of think about how we only get the type of history that's kind of revealed to us, right? There's so much documentation, so many different accounts of history that have just been kind of lost to time, right? Or destroyed by various different political rulers in our history, right? You know, famously, Julio Caesar burned down the Library of Alexandria and stuff like that. You know, who knows how many records that destroyed, right? That act, right? Or, you know, remember like when the Mongols sacked Baghdad and destroyed the House of Wisdom and stuff. All of this kind of heavily suggests that, you know, a lot of history was kind of just lost to time, right? And we just get what was just kind of, you know, put carefully, like kind of pieced together from all the chaos and stuff. We don't really get the complete picture, right? We just get like these incomplete, I would say, puzzles and stuff. Still types of mysteries that we can't fully decipher because, you know, again, history was just kind of, it was kind of like only selectively passed down, right? Only, you really think like all of the political rulers in our history, do you really think they would like allow all of their lives to be properly documented and this documentation would be just given to later generations? Of course not, right? They would make it so that they seem more, you know, more benign, more benevolent, or more divine in some way, or whatever, right? You know, history is clearly fabricated in a lot of different cases, right? You know, again, like so many different accounts of history have been just kind of lost to time and kind of destroyed, right? You can kind of see like how this would kind of show that, you know, the type of history that we have now is just completely fictional, right? It's a fictional timeline we have now. No one really knows, right, what happened in the past, right? Let's say like a couple hundred years from now in the past, right? A couple hundred years back, even more further back. Let's just jump to antiquity, right? Antiquity, the ancient Greeks and Romans and, you know, maybe the ancient Egyptians and stuff like that. Literally, what we have now of them is just completely fictional. We don't know anything about them really, right? Because, you know, you would say, well, yeah, we do. We have a bunch of accounts. We have a bunch of manuscripts that they made and stuff. You know, what language they spoke. They wrote a lot of literature about themselves. So yeah, we have a good idea of what they were. Do you really? How do you know all of that wasn't just kind of fabricated later on after you know, any of these, you know, antique and people, you know, people of antiquity? How do you know, like, how it wasn't just fabricated after they lived their lives and passed away, right? You have no clue on whether or not they even existed the way we know them to have existed, right? It's just, there's no clear type of record on, you know, on history, right? It's all just fanciful and wishful thinking on the part of a lot of, you know, archaeologists and historians and other people that study this type of field, right? It's all just speculation. It can never be conclusively proven, right, that history happened the way it did as we know it right now. It's all just speculation and you know, just you know, fiction, really fictional, right? Of course, you know, when I say history, right, what are you talking about, right? You know, World War II, that was extremely recent, right? So you could say, well, look, we have people that lived in that time period and they corroborate a lot of what we've documented and like reported on and stuff and claimed. So that's a real event in history, right? World War II. Let's kind of jump a few more 1,000 years back, right? We don't know. There are no people from that time period that were alive and that have, you know, authenticated anything about that time period that we know of, right? In thin air, again. That's kind of insane, right? History is fictional, right? Especially the type of history dealing with like antiquity, right? With the deep historical past, right? You know, Genghis Khan is kind of a perfect example, right? You know, his entire life, we don't know anything about the guy, right? He never wrote his own biography. That's what you have to kind of keep in mind. You know, all of these different accounts we have of his life, right? They come from other people, right? People that weren't directly interfacing with him, right? They just kind of heard stuff that other people have claimed about Genghis Khan. And then, they kind of compiled it into this little biography that we have, right? That's completely fictional, right? I don't believe that Genghis Khan wrote his own biography. I don't believe that any of the people near him kind of were documenting what he was doing perfectly, right? We don't know anything about his life. Genghis Khan, really. Genghis, like his name, the way we pronounce his name is completely wrong. You can see how, history was kind of tainted in this way, right? It was kind of made up. Not just Genghis Khan, any political ruler or figure, of history, right? Any type of famous conqueror, right? Like their lives, they weren't writing their own biographies, right? Other people were like kind of just, claiming things about them, and then we're supposed to trust that. Isn't that kind of ridiculous? Isn't that kind of stupid? That's really stupid, right? Again, history was just fabricated, made up. The type of history we have is fictional. It's fiction, right? It's not the truth. And you could say, well, we have like our manuscripts, we have all of these different types of evidences. So yeah, history, the type of history we have now is definitely authentic and stuff. Is completely true. You just have to blindly believe what I'm telling you and stuff, right? For no reason, isn't that ridiculous? No critical thinking skills, right? Don't have that, right? Just be stupid and blind and just accept what we have to tell you because we have evidences of history and stuff. We have like accounts and whatever, and blah 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 blah. And, it goes on, but nobody alive now has like some sort of time machine that you can go back and kind of fact check everything properly, right? Nothing like that, right? History is just a bunch of it just relies on a bunch of loose reports on what a lot of different people think happened, right? Not what these people that we get our accounts from and stuff. They didn't have like photographic memory, right? They weren't perfect human beings, right? A lot of they just claimed a bunch of things that we can't even know that were completely true and not tainted by their own biases and opinions and stuff. This is like why, history again is fictional. It's a type of thing we made up, right? We don't know on like especially deep history, going into our historical past, like old accounts and reports, they are clear. They cannot, they have to be biased, right? Because, humans are just like that, right? We taint things the way we want them to be, right? We kind of taint things with our own ideas and beliefs and stuff like that. It's extremely hard for us to like see a type of objective reality, right? We always have to put in our own essence and our own types of beliefs and stuff like that into whatever we're reporting and studying and documenting and believing and creating and whatever. So it's just kind of, history is completely fictional, right? The type of history that deals with antiquity, like anything dealing with our deep historical past, is completely fictional. It's made up. It cannot be the confirmed truth, because you could say, well, yes, it is, because we have a bunch of accounts and reports and stuff from people that we don't even know anything about, right? These people just claim and stuff, and then we're supposed to just believe what they claimed is true and stuff. Do we know like what they were like who was giving these reports and accounts and stuff? You can see it's just so insane, right? Anything dealing like with our deep historical past is kind of any type of history relating to that is just fictional. It's not factual, right? It was completely made up. And a lot of people don't realize this, right? A lot of people watch a ton of documentaries on like, I don't know, any type of ancient person or people or anything to do with our deep historical past. They just believe the things mentioned in these documentaries. They don't realize, right? A lot of the information is fictional, right? Nobody knows, when you're dealing with history, right? You're dealing with opinions and speculation, and that's it. You're not dealing with any type of confirmed truth, because again, in order for you to know, like, if things happen the way the way we think they did in the past, you'd have to invent a time machine, right? Get yourself into the time machine, right? Carefully and excruciatingly go back in time and carefully corroborate and correspond everything that we know now to the actual past, right? You will never be able to do that. So, that's why I would say that, history is, fictional. It's made up, it's fabricated, right? It's invented. We just, in a lot of cases, right, we were kind of just inventing a lot of accounts and reports and stuff like that. People, there's a lot of, there's a lot of imagination involved in our history and stuff, you know. Of course, a lot of people say, well, we have archaeological evidence, we have manuscripts, we have reports of what people said and claimed about specific events that we don't know anything about. We have to rely on these reports and accounts. You don't know if these reports and accounts are actually accurate. They could have just been made up. Like some person, who knows how long ago, right? He could have just been sitting down and writing up like stories and stuff. And then you just believe those. Some person, from our current time, right? He just comes across like these like writings that that other person, that more ancient person left behind and stuff. So and he falsely believes that this is like some type of historical documentation on like what was actually going on in that that more historical person's timeline and his time period and stuff like that. This is just completely ridiculous, right? It's kind of insane. And you can see how like what I'm saying is true, right? Because history is just fake. It was imagined up for us, right? In a lot of cases, right? Of course, there are some. I don't want to just kind of, invalidate all of history. Right? Of course, there has to be some truth, right? To like a lot of the history we're taught, right? But a lot of it is also kind of just been fabricated, invented, manipulated. Because you have to think about the politics of history, right? Various different kings and rulers. Do you really think they would like allow any unfavorable information to be passed on, right? Of course not. They would burn and destroy any type of unfavorable information to maintain their own images and stuff like that, and their appeals for their own personal reasons and stuff. You can see, right, how not only is history kind of fabricated, made up, invented and stuff, is also heavily tainted, right, by the politics of by politics of history, right? The politics that were surrounding all of history and stuff. It's kind of it's just bizarre to me that a lot of people don't like really realize this, right? They continue watching documentaries on various different things and stuff relating to our past, and they just kind of sit there and take all of the information in, right? But they don't kind of critically think and say, all right, is any of this actually true, right? Is any of the information actually been validated properly, or is it just based off loose reports and maybe like kind of poorly scavenged accounts of like people that we don't even know about, and who's to know? Like who's to say that what they were claiming about these specific historical events in the past, right? Or even true? Like, well, how do we know they weren't lying? These people and their accounts and their reports of the history we get taught and given, right? Hopefully, a lot of you would just kind of start to like stop blindly believing what other people tell you and stuff. You could kind of develop your own type of intellectual independence, right? Your own intellectual faculties and stuff. You have to kind of learn to think for yourself and not just blindly believe things and stuff, right?